Yeah, there are definitely there's going to be a faction of feminism today, and there's a number of women who are going to have a problem with what I have to say about this. You know, I really, there are certainly things that Victoria's Secret has done that I don't like, but this latest like controversy, you know, if it really is a controversy over their ads that say like the perfect body, you know, seriously, it's why don't you go after the men instead? You know, why don't you go after all of the professional sports leagues that are, you know, that have cheerleaders who all have to look a certain way, who may not even be the most athletic cheerleaders who audition to be cheerleaders, but all you know, essentially look like perhaps shorter versions. I've never actually looked at the requirements, like height requirements for these cheerleaders for professional teams, that kind of thing. Or even in college, you know, maybe shorter versions of the Victoria's Secret models, you know, which of course is not really appropriate because you're talking about a sporting event, right? Why don't you go after them? Why don't you go after all of these men's organizations that degrade women, that treat women like commodities, that treat women like possessions, that treat women like things to which you gain a certain type of privileged access to pass around and have sex with once you get to be a star, you know, a sports star at a certain level. You know, why don't everything that treats women and now children also as if they are nothing more than sex objects. And of course, the idea of children being sex objects at all is totally disgusting, right? Why don't you consistently go after men's organizations, the men who are the most misogynist, who treat women like they're worthless? Because I will tell you something, I know you don't want to hear it, there are a lot more women than you think who are, you know, basically more or less perhaps a shorter or a taller or a little bit thinner or a little bit fatter version of Victoria's Secret models, just as beautiful. You know, I mean, that place, I'm sure, that particular business auditions like thousands of women to be Victoria's Secret models every year, and I'm sure their decisions are actually difficult and are not necessarily even based on who's the most beautiful, but perhaps is based more on who it is that's most interested in being a Victoria's Secret model, right? I mean, there are certainly women who fit that particular body type, right? And they don't just sell one type of bra, you know, and they don't just sell one size of bra. You know, I do wish, here is my plea though for all the bra manufacturers, please, will you please make bras that don't have padding, that are reasonably priced? I do not have size D boobs. I don't have size D boobs. I don't covet having size D boobs. And I really just fail to understand why it is that every bra manufacturer seems to think that every woman who has like a size like D, you know, feels like not only does she have to have bigger boobs than that, but she wants to be able to use her own boobs as like a dinner tray. And I don't feel that way. You know, I just like, please, I just, you know, there's nothing wrong with bras that just, you know, do what they're supposed to do, which is to give you some support and allow you to look the way that you really are. I don't like the whole false advertising in terms of bras. I don't need that. You know, I mean, it's like I suppose some, maybe an extra layer of fabric, that kind of thing, so that you can wear like a t-shirt without getting embarrassed, you know, in the breeze, that kind of thing. But other than that, please, you know, stop with all the padding. I don't need it. But seriously, here's the thing. My perspective about these things is that you don't have to say that everybody is beautiful. What you can say is, it's nice to be beautiful, but to be perfectly beautiful is not the only way that someone can be attractive. And like, being perfectly beautiful being perfectly beautiful is not the only way, you know, to have enjoyable sex with someone or for someone to desire you or any of those things. I mean, it's just wrong. It's wrong, you know, because it sets up this situation where women who really don't have to work that hard to fit that particular body type, and to look that way, they don't need to walk around feeling guilty about what they look like, right? And also they also don't need to be just like treated like total sex objects all the time, or treated like they've done something wrong. You know, if you are seriously overweight, or even just overweight, you know, that doesn't make you, most people can do something about the fact that they are not thin. If you want to be thin, you know, you can work at being thin. Yes, of course, there are people who have, you know, body types that will never allow them to look slender, but just get over it. Get over it. You know, it's like being too short or like being too tall. As far you know, whatever it is. There is really no such thing necessarily as being too short, or being too tall, but there is such a thing as being too fat. You know what I mean? I mean, why not just? It's very ungracious. It really is to say you have to say that everyone is beautiful. No, you don't. You know, there are people who are beautiful and people who are not. But it's not a crime not to be beautiful. And it's also not a crime to say, you know, hey, look at these people over here who are really genuinely beautiful. Let's you know, they are very lucky, but it's not the end of the world for everybody else. But and here I am, you know, getting older. There was certainly a time in my life when, let's see, when did this, I guess I kind of was maybe really around my early 30s when I began to notice that, like, the faces on the covers of magazines were getting to be just more beautiful than my face, you know, and other people's bodies, like, were getting to be more beautiful than mine. And then it was also a question of, like, just walking around, it would first be one girl who was more beautiful than me, then another, and another, and another, and another, and I was like, oh yeah, you know, I am actually getting older. I am getting older, and it was hard. It's hard. It's getting a little bit easier now because I've been going through it for a while. But it is not the end of the world. You know, I had my time of being really beautiful. It wasn't as much time as I should have had because my life got so screwed up. But still, you know, I went through several years of being, like, really genuinely overweight, where nobody would have called me thin, and everybody who had known me before in Burlington was, like, wondering how it was I had gained 50 pounds, and of course 30 to 50 pounds, and of course it was the psychiatric medications I was taking, you know. And so I don't think that I don't understand what it's like to not be perfectly beautiful, because I do, and oh boy do I ever, you know. But the thing is, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. You know, I had to kind of figure out how to be the larger size that I was, and it didn't destroy all my dating opportunities, but it certainly got rid of a number of them. Also, not just because guys my age were kind of superficial that way, but also because I did not. My personality was just kind of. I was so upset. I was so upset with everything that had happened to me. I was also so upset with being overweight, and I was so upset, and I didn't really know what was wrong. I had certainly gotten the message that something was wrong with me, right? And I kept getting that message over and over and over again from, you know, all the people who were supposed to be helping me, you know, like people in the health professions who were like, well, you'll never have a normal life if you don't take these medications. When in fact, the medications were making me not have a normal life. Were making my life terrible, you know. So I get my sympathy for women who do not fit a perfect beauty ideal. You know, yes, I understand that it's painful, but you do not have the right to attack women who do fit that ideal. Let them be beautiful. You know, let them. Why not? You know, and move on with your life. Learn to be as attractive as you can be, and realize that just because you don't fit that standard doesn't mean that you're not attractive. It doesn't even mean you're not beautiful. It just means you did not get to be as fortunate as those women. Let them, you know, let them have what they have. Don't you want people to let you have what you have? You know, please.